American Timelines is a member of the Queen City Podcast Network, powered by Ortho Carolina. Find out more at queencitypodcastnetwork.com.
So now I'm obsessed with time. Come on, tell me about the time. Had it all in my hand tonight. Had the time of my life. When the words all come down like blues on Tuesdays come down.
Welcome to another episode of American Timelines. I'm Amy and that's Joe.
And we are back with episode 134. Another episode of the 50s.
That's right.
Yeah, we're in 1950 still. It's taking us forever to get through 1950.
Yeah.
And again, we promised you we would have cool guests every week, and we finally have the coolest guests of all time. We give endless verbal blowjobs to this fella.
That's right.
Because he does, his
Deserved.
His music is the beginning and end of our podcast. And he kicks ass, and I always tell you to listen to his albums. And the way I always present him, I think is the coolest description. I don't know if everybody calls you this, but I think he's a mix between the Prince and Mick Jagger. If those two had a baby, you'd get Matt Truman. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Matt Truman for the Matt Truman Ego Trip. Hi, Matt
Hello,
Truman.
America.
Yes.
The velvety voice of Matt Truman.
Matt Truman, everybody. Yes. And you guys should see the video. We're Zooming with him right now, and he's dressed completely like Elton John when he did the Donald Duck costume.
I just this old thing.
Yeah.
Welcome, Matt Truman. Thanks for being here, man.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
How you feeling, man?
A lot better.
Yeah. What was it? How was it?
How was the COVID?
It was like an intense flu. Where
Really?
I could feel my pulse throughout my entire body.
Oh.
Yeah.
And
For like hours. It was so gross.
oh my God. And fever. So how long was your fever?
It would come and go for like 3 or 4 days. And that's probably not. I probably didn't have the worst of it, but yeah,
Oh,
it was
God.
like intense flu for 3 or 4 days, and then 6 more days of just trying to get back to reality somehow.
Did you have trouble breathing, like they say, like catching your breath and stuff?
I not really that I can recall. It was like I was, when you got like a fevery flu and it feels like you're just like on mescaline or something like that, where you're like, what's even going on?
Yeah.
So,
Oh, I'm not
know.
looking forward to it.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm glad you're feeling better. I'm glad you could join us. It sucked that we missed you a couple weeks ago. We were sad, of course, more than anything, sad that you and your family got sick. But everybody's
yeah,
feeling
it was
better.
a wonderful Christmas.
Yeah, wonderful Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right before
Oh,
Christmas.
that sucks.
Yeah, that sucks. But everybody, it's going around and it's real.
Now,
and-
did your kids get it too?
No,
Oh,
thankfully.
that's good.
Really?
Yeah.
No, they didn't get it.
I thought
They didn't get it.
Oh, good.
Steph and I did. We had to like open presents and masks and stuff on Christmas morning. It was,
Aw.
That's,
and then everybody ran off back to their rooms, and it was such family togetherness,
I guess. That happens at our house too, but we don't have the excuse that we're sick.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, everybody does that at
Right.
our house, but nobody's sick. It's just they do
Right.
that to
They
get away
prefer to
from it.
be alone with
Yeah.
a device.
Yeah,
It's a
everybody-
sad state of
Everybody's
affairs.
in their own rooms all the time, but I guess that's the age, and the preteens and the teens, and that's. What
oh
they
no,
do, but-
trust me. I mean,
Yeah.
every night I have to text my children. What should I should do? Ugh. Every night I have to text my children. What do you guys want for me to order for dinner? Because
Yeah, really.
I don't know where you are.
hey, I'm on Grubhub now. What should I get?
Yeah. Do you ever put music out on Grubhub?
I should.
Yeah, Matt Truman. Check out his band. Like every episode of American Timelines has a link in the description to Matt Truman's band camp page to buy his music.
Oh,
That's
sweet.
right.
Yeah.
Because it kicks ass. I don't know if anybody's used. I know of one person at least that told me they used that. They bought your music based on our podcast. So that's at least one guy who bought it. But
Thank you, Aunt Dinah.
no, I'm serious, man. This is the best music. I'm serious. Like I have a lot of friends that make music, and they're all. A lot of them are pretty good.
Yeah,
and I would listen
don't start
to them.
shitting on people.
No, and I'm not gonna. Like, I have a
Yeah.
lot of friends that make music. I'll go see their bands or whatever. But this is different. Like this, I've bought every one of Matt Truman's albums, and I actually listen to them in rotation with other shit. Like it's just
nice.
as good as Soundgarden. My favorite shit is like
Yeah.
Soundgarden, A lot of Beastie Boys. Like, I love the Rolling Stones. Way more now than I ever did. But Prince, like, I will put it right in the rotation. I listen to it all the time. It's the best music, and I don't understand, and it actually pisses me off that you're not super famous. So I think it bothers me more than it bothers anyone else, or you even. But
it's a little abnormal.
well, it's just fucking bullshit. I mean, it just goes to show you that it's not like I was thinking. Somewhere in your head, you think, well, good music will always be discovered. Like, whoever's got the talent, they will rise to the top, and it will be found. But that's not true.
Right.
It's the same as other talent. There's actors and performers that are great that will never be
that's
found.
Really acting.
But with music, like, this proves it. Like, this is better than most music that is out there. Like, it's in the top 10 of all music of all time. And I'm not just giving you a verbal blowjob. It's great shit.
The music of all time.
Of all time. Like, he's up there with Prince and Rolling Stone. I'm telling you. And it's bullshit. Anybody who doesn't listen to it. Sorry.
Wow.
I'm really mad right now. No, I'm serious.
I don't even know how to react to that.
I know.
When I worked with Matt Truman in Ohio, I discovered, that's when I first discovered that Matt Truman Ego Trip album. This is the self-titled album, right? Isn't it the first one with the...
It's called Everybody's Got One.
Oh, Everybody's Got One. Yeah, that's fucking great. So I was playing that for a coworker, and she knew who Matt Truman was, but she didn't know. She knew he was in a band or whatever, but she never heard it. And I was playing it. I was like, who do you think this is? And at the time, Audioslave was really big, and what's that other band with Guns N' Roses supergroup, whatever that was, Velvet Revolver? So I played those, and they liked those songs. And I played this one. I was like, who do you think that? I was like, who's that? That's really good. And when I said it was Matt Truman, this gal we worked with, she turned bright red. Like, I don't know if she was like blushing because she was like, oh my God, no, that guy, oh my God. And that's the reaction that you should get because it's fucking kick ass. So anyway, thanks for letting us use your music for our podcast.
Yes.
Someday,
No problem.
Someday I keep expecting him to sue me.
Take it down. He's
I-
trying to figure out how to tell us.
I'm only here to tell you my lawyer will be calling you.
Please stop using your music. So that's what I hope that someday that if we ever get a talk show out of this, he would be the Doc Severinsen, the Paul Schaefer.
Oh, that would be awesome.
So
You're dreaming.
If you would do it.
You're dreaming a little bit.
I don't think
babe.
we'll get a talk show.
No.
But if we did, we already got a Paul Schaefer.
Right. That's true.
Anyway, just a more talented and better looking Paul Schaefer.
That's wonderful, Joe.
But not as big
That was
of a
my
dick.
Paul Schaefer imitation. I don't know.
Oh, that sounds like Paul Schaefer. Yeah. I heard he's got a big wiener. So anyway, thank you for being here. We're gonna jump right in before I talk.
Yeah.
Do you want to say anything, Matt, about your music, or do you have anything to plug? Any shows coming up or albums
Nothing.
coming out?
I mean, I had my whole year was canceled, so
everything was
got
canceled.
nothing.
Yeah. So
All my stuff is online on Spotify or wherever you get your music. It can be downloaded through Bandcamp.
but you're not just in Matt Truman Ego Trip, right? I mean, you have
The Zimmerman Twins.
the Zimmerman Twins, and then do you have any? Is there any Jinkies albums online to download?
No.
Okay,
God,
an
I
old,
hope not.
That's an old band from the '90s that we. That was I have a Jinkies album. I have
What you do?
How was it? Something.
Cumpleaños
de Paco. Yes, I have that.
I feel like that sounds familiar. I might have heard that one.
It was chapter 13 of Spanish textbook from junior high or something.
That's how you named that. Anyway, so listen to Matt Truman Ego Trip's albums. They're all great. Ice Cream. Was it Ice Cream Paint Job? No, Ice Cream. What's the ice cream one?
Novelties.
Oh, Ice Cream Novelties. I'm so bad at plugging. Like, I know you got a name.
I'm a big fan.
I know.
I
What's
should
it
know
called
the name.
again?
And then albums. I'm so bad, but they're great. They're great. They're awesome. They're the best music. I don't know anybody's albums though. Okay, so we're gonna start where we left off the end of September of 1950, and we're gonna jump right in on October 1st, 1950, and I have a little clip to play to intro this first thing. Okay. And Amy, control your temper, but listen to this.
Amy hates birthdays. Amy hates birthdays.
October 1st,
What is
1950 was a Sunday. It was Randy Quaid's
Wait a
birthday.
All right.
That's our new theme song written by Matt Truman when I do a birthday. You want to hear it one more time?
Yes, I do.
You got to hear it one more time. Here's the theme to Randy Quaid's birthday.
Amy hates birthdays.
Great.
Amy hates
That's our new theme song to Amy
That is
to birthdays.
hysterical.
Yes, that's Matt Truman.
And
hoping that would be a
didn't.
surprise.
You said you didn't contribute anything. Come on.
But yeah, so Amy
You're
hates
wait a
birthdays.
minute. You're going to do that every time you come up with a birthday?
Every time there's a birthday, but this one is Randy Quaid. American actor was born in Houston, Texas. Randy Quaid on October 1st, 1950.
All right.
Yes.
I guess I have to change my mind about how much I hate
I
birthdays.
thought that would be a way to change your mind.
I might have.
Amy hates birthdays.
Because that was really interesting.
I've had that song in my head for like 3 days since she said that to me. And our son even knew about it, and I told him, don't you tell her.
That's hysterical.
And he didn't tell you. So I've been singing that and trying not to sing it in front of you. Because
I was
wanted
like,
you
I'm
to be
sitting there thinking,
surprised.
how did he get that? Like, it just didn't occur to me. That was obviously, but I'm sitting there thinking, what is it, a computer program that like you can?
Oh, how did he record
Like
that?
I was
Or-
thinking, how did you come up with that?
Oh,
It
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
even pass. It didn't even cross
You
my
didn't realize
mind.
that Matt Truman
Yeah.
recorded that. Matt Truman Ego Trip recorded that. Yeah, that's a new single. Now is that sound, is that hook from something else?
I don't know. I was singing it on the way home from work, and I got home immediately and started trying to suss it out on the keyboard. And my son was like, "That sounds familiar. That sounds familiar." I was like, "Shut up!
Yeah,
Get this done."
I was trying to remember because I know I'm getting confused with that one song where you have "Baby, won't you tell me it's your birthday? Baby, won't you tell me?"
Yeah.
Come on. Like that's one of my favorite ones. But it's not that. But I was thinking it might be one of them off your newer album that it sounds similar. But it doesn't matter. You gave us the rights to use that, I think. And then Monday, October 2nd, 1950, the comic strip Peanuts by Charles M. Schultz was
Isn't it pronounced peanuts?
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 Peanuts? Can I see your peanuts?
Didn't we discuss that before?
We talked about it. We're at a baseball
Several
game,
times.
and a guy named Scooter, who I went with, doesn't like jokes. He doesn't laugh at anything. And he bought peanuts. And I was really drunk at the baseball game. I was like, "Hey, everybody, look at Scooter's peanuts." And everybody's like, "What?" Scooter's got his peanuts in his hand. And he didn't think it was funny. But anyway, Charles Schultz's comic strip Peanuts was published for the first time in 7 U.S. newspapers, including the Washington Post, the Chicago Tribune, the Minneapolis Star Tribune, and the Seattle Times. In the very first strip, the main character was introduced in a statement by Shermy, a character that later got dropped, who said, "Well, here comes old Charlie Brown. Good old Charlie Brown." And then the next panel, "Yes, sir, good old Charlie Brown." And then the last panel, he says, "Oh, Charlie Brown, how I hate him."
That was it?
That was it. Yeah. When the Peanuts started in 1950, Charlie Brown was 4 years old. And
Oh, was he really?
Yeah. In 1957, they aged him to 6 years old. And then about 1979, they aged him to 8, and then he stayed 8 for the rest of the time.
You know, I guess I've never considered how old Charlie Brown was. Like throughout watching, I never like
Well, you know,
thought about it.
He's old enough to watch Sally. So I never thought about how old any kids were until I had kids, because I had no idea. I was like,
Yeah.
when do they watch
like
themselves?
how old was Fat Albert?
Oh, he's like 19 or something, wasn't he?
I don't
He
know.
was banging chicks, I think.
Gross. You're so
Yeah, but
crazy.
he was not. Charlie Brown was not banging chicks, and that would be weird if he was. But when Schultz first sold the strip to United Features Syndicate in 1950, it was the syndicate that changed the name to Peanuts. Do you know what it was called before Peanuts? You guys have a guess?
Chin nuts.
It's a good guess.
No, bitch, you got a dick in your mouth. Oh no, it's Lil Folks.
Oh, I'm glad they changed
Oh,
that.
I kind of remember. That sounds familiar.
And Charles Schultz, he never liked the name Peanuts.
Really?
Yeah, he wanted to keep it Lil Folks.
Oh, I'm glad they changed it.
Yeah. You like Peanuts better?
Oh, I love
the Peanuts
yeah.
gang. I can't say that I feel one way or the other about it. And that same day.
I think it would be a cute dog name.
Okay. That same day, a new television show began a 3-season run on CBS television. I'm going to play the, if I can figure out how to do it here, I'm going to play the theme song for you. This was Tom Corbett, Space Cadet.
Kellogg, the greatest name in cereals, presents Tom Corbett, Space Cadet.
This was a competitor to the
Academy,
Dumont
USA,
Network
and the
science
world
fiction
beyond
program,
tomorrow.
Captain Video and his Video
2350
Rangers.
AD. Here the space cadets train for duty on distant planets. In roaring rockets, they blast through the millions of miles from Earth to far-flung stars and brave the dangers of cosmic frontiers, protecting the liberties of the planet, safeguarding the cause of universal peace in the age of the conquest of space.
Yeah, it's the 1950s was so obsessed with space.
Yeah, they were. It's kind of like a precursor.
I mean,
to
we hadn't. It's
Star
weird
Trek.
to think we hadn't gone into space yet, because in our lifetimes, we've always gone into space,
Right, and they hadn't.
and,
but
and they
if you-
hadn't yet. So.
But looking at those graphics is exactly why I'm not an anti-vaxxer or a hoax person, but it's hard to believe we went to space with the technology we had in the 60s. We didn't have VCRs yet. But if you look at that, graphic on YouTube, you can look this up, Tom Corbett, Space Cadet on YouTube. And this was the shinier version. This competed with a show called Captain Video and his Video Rangers, which is also about space travel. The Earth was a paper mache ball that looked so shitty, like it looked so shitty. And so we're to think that like in 19 years they go to the space, like go to the moon?
I just like how it says Space Cadet and then seek and destroy. Like they're immediately just going to space to destroy everything.
Oh yeah, totally.
Well, it's all instantly wars and stuff. Yeah, so
Of course.
they were competing with Captain Video and these shows were 15 minutes long then. And I don't know, this Captain Video show was brought to you by Lucky Strikes.
Yeah.
And I pulled up a Lucky Strike commercial too, I think.
Oh,
Here, just real quick.
So it's a
Light
cartoon.
up, Lucky, it's light up time. Be happy, go lucky, it's light up time.
And this is little businessman dancing.
Relax. It's light up time.
Oh my God.
Our friend Happy
Yep.
Joe Lucky has the right idea.
Now it's
Relax
live
and light
action.
up a better tasting Lucky Strike. You'll find that Luckies do taste better, and for good reasons. First, LSMFT.
Toasted.
Lucky Strike means fine tobacco. And then that fine, good tasting tobacco is toasted. It's toasted to taste even better. Cleaner,
Taste.
fresher,
Like
smoother.
cigarettes
Yeah,
taste
like,
good.
that's a thing. Like, whoever thought cigarettes tasted? I'm in flavor country.
I
you
know.
I don't know. I had to play that. I love old cigarette commercials. And Matt, I don't know if you still smoke, but if you've quit, I bet you want one now.
After that commercial,
Poor Matt's trying to quit. Probably. I'm like, go.
and you're like, look at these
Smoke
enticing, tasteful cigarettes.
I miss smoking very bad. But so these shows were kind of marketed to kids. Captain Video, it was marketed to kids because they were this Captain Video show, which I didn't show at the beginning of. They gave away a flying saucer ring, electronic goggles, a secret ray gun, decoders, and membership cards and stuff to kids.
Yeah.
And then they're brought to you by Lucky Strikes. And
And
what a
and it
crazy
was a
world that was.
cartoon.
Yeah.
I
We
mean-
wonder why everybody was smoking by middle school
Right.
back then. I don't know what my point is, but yeah, like I like Matt's point about how instantly they're out to seek and destroy
Yeah.
other planets. It's like kill or be killed.
I love that media, like seeing the media from.
Yeah, from 1950.
Back then.
I'm fascinated by it, like television shows and movies, just to like get a glimpse of what things were looking like. I was watching just recently. I was watching The Apartment.
Yeah.
Best Picture winner from 1960, I think.
Jack
it was.
Lemmon and Shirley MacLaine.
Jack Lemmon, Shirley MacLaine, and my son walked in and was like, "What's this?" And I was like, "I'm just fascinated." Like there was a bar scene, and I was like, "I'm fascinated by what bars were like in 1960, 1950, in the late 50s." They didn't have, nobody had phones. Every single person had a cigarette.
Yes.
Everybody had a fedora on. And I was like, "This is my grandparents were at these bars. Like they were. I figured out the math. They were like 30 when that was at that time, and I was like, they were in bars,
Yeah.
dancing and getting hammered and smoking Lucky Strikes. I don't know why I'm just fascinated about that. Like, I don't care about the rest of life. I care about the bar scene.
Like the the mundane.
Yeah, like if I could time travel, I would go to a bars in the 50s and the 60s and.
Some people would go murder Hitler,
Yeah,
but
right.
you
I would
are
just
going to go to bars in the 50s and 60s.
I would go get drunk with people. But October 3rd, 1950 was a Tuesday, and Beulah, the first television series to star an African American, premiered on the ABC television network with actress and comedian Ethel Waters as the title character. She was a maid for a white family, the Hendersons.
Of course.
Yeah, of
Big
course
surprise.
she was. And prepare yourself for the awful
Oh, boy.
racism here.
The Beulah Show.
The Beulah Show. Who spends most of her time in the kitchen, but never seems to know what's cooking.
Yeah, that's the Beulah Show. So, yeah, it's bad, and I heard
Yeah.
you gasp audibly, but prepare to gasp even more because Beulah, of course, now considered an example of the stereotype of African Americans that was popular prior to the '60s. Beulah was portrayed smarter than her employees, though, in the show. But the show had been adapted from a radio comedy
But
series.
even it was acting like she was stupid.
Yeah, it like kind of like, oh.
So if
no,
she's smarter than
nothing.
the employees,
I think they portrayed her as always like she'd always figure everything out. Like, how did Beulah figure it out?
Oh,
That
right.
kind of thing. Like, but it's adapted from a radio show of the same name, and the radio, she was portrayed by a white male actor named Marlon Hurt in blackface.
oh
You know,
my
so it was
God.
a white man playing her, and you could listen to it. You can find it online, and it's terrible, and you feel awful. So at first, when I first looked it up, I was like, "Oh, great, first African American already, 1950." But it's like
It's just
portraying
reinforcing
horrible
stereotypes.
and it's awful. And Beulah was a character that was on some other radio shows like that, and then they spun her off on her own show, but it was just white men playing her, making fun of black people. But when black actress Hattie McDaniel took over the role in 1947, she earned $1,000 a week for the first season and doubled the ratings of the original series, and it pleased the NAACP at the time,
Yeah.
which was elated to see a historic first black woman as a star of a network radio program. So it's kind of like this weird double-edged thing. It's like, we're glad you're
They're letting you participate,
you're paying a black person to do this, although everything you do
but it's
is
on
a
by their
stereotype.
rules.
Yeah. So it just kind of shows you how like
Yeah, it's like
gross and awful our history is.
and it's like
yeah.
which was worse. It's hard to say.
Yeah, which is worse, the white guy playing her or her playing herself being a stereotype?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I'd say the white guy doing it is worse. None of it's
Yeah.
great. Yeah, it's icky and you feel gross and it's terrible. But I feel like we gotta mention it and talk about it. 'Cause
Right.
I think I don't know, the more I see everything that's happening in the world today, I'm never surprised at where we are, because I don't know why I am surprised, and I'm like, why am I surprised? We were based on, we were founded on all this bullshit, and, slavery and racism and.
Well, and Jane Elliott says if you are a white person in this and you've been educated in this country, you are a racist, and
That's right.
it's true.
I'm a big follower of the Jane Elliott.
Oh, I love her.
I love watching those things. Watch white people cry.
I
and
know.
Run out of rooms and
Yeah.
stuff.
I love it. I love her so much.
Yeah, I try to tell my kids about that kind of stuff all the time. We're just like, we were founded on all this stuff. It's no
Right.
surprise. I guess I'm only surprised that it's still with the storming of the Capitol and everything, there's still all these same people that have been raised on all this shit.
And they're just blind to it.
Yeah,
I
have
was
no idea.
blind to it.
Completely blind, you think?
I was, compared to what I feel like I know now after doing that workbook over the summer,
Yeah.
I feel like I was completely blind to
it. White privilege in me was the name of it.
I knew it was a thing.
Yeah.
But
you didn't know how racist you were.
I didn't know, like...
I'm pointing at you.
I'm not... No, not so much like that. I didn't know that it was so encompassing everything in our country. Everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like everything.
Everything
media,
comes back to racism.
Yeah.
Every problem stems from racism. Every policy stems from racism. And that's what shocked me. That's what I didn't realize. And then even just like with police, I've never...
The history of the police.
I've never been like scared of the police. I mean, I get, it's a bummer, but I've never been scared of the police. And just the difference there, like...
Well, I mean, just the police started as
like that's
slaves.
Like an example of my own
like
privilege, but I'm saying like in combination with realizing those parts of my own privilege that I took for granted, and the national policies and everything being derived from racism. It's just like
it's just everything, not just policies and all. It's like everything, like almost any like slang catchphrase and term and saying is like it
goes back to
look
that.
Back, it's because it's racist. Everything's racist. Like, or you were the one telling me that in your study somebody told you that the word gal, calling a woman a gal,
it comes from
racism. Like that was a stereotypical term for
or master bedroom. The master bedroom.
Ugh, I would have never thought of that.
Yeah, that's one too.
Yeah, like almost anything you say stems from racism. I was just playing for my son the Richard Pryor Saturday Night Live sketch where Chevy Chase is Richard Pryor is applying for a job and he's going through word association and it ends with dead honky because Chevy Chase yells the N-word on SNL at Richard Pryor. And my son was like, what is happening? That's so racist. I'm like, well, Richard Pryor, you got to understand the context and the time and I don't know, but I don't know. I'm not
and the politics of that sketch being that Richard Pryor is the kind of the triumph. He triumphs in the end.
They give him a bunch of money to be the janitor because he says "dead honky." And Richard Pryor's facial expressions in that sketch
so good
are hilarious. Richard Pryor was amazing. But anyway, it's fucked up. American timelines makes no bones about how fucking shitty America is.
No, right.
And you just talk about murders.
I know.
So let's cleanse our palate with October 4th, 1950, when Snoopy shows up for the first time in Peanuts. He's the most famous dog in comic strip history, and he made his first appearance, and he would not be identified by name, though, until May 22nd of 1951.
Trying to quiet the dog.
And his thoughts would become a regular part of the story starting on May 27th, 1952, and he began walking upright in 1956. So Snoopy just started out as like a dog. Just a dog.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that would later inspire a rapper, the greatest rapper of all time, Snoop Dogg. I don't know if he's the greatest rapper. He's not the greatest rapper of all time.
What do you think, Matt?
Who's the greatest rapper of all time, Matt Truman? No
Snoop's
pressure.
up there, though. You gotta love his style.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's different than anybody. You always know it's Snoop.
Who is the greatest rapper of all time?
I think it might be Biggie.
Yeah, he's pretty good, too.
Yeah.
Like, Biggie's lyrics are my favorite, I think, of all time.
I don't know.
So, yeah, I don't know. We don't know who. Well, you can think about that. By the end of the episode, we'll expect.
I'll have your answer.
Declare why. Do some research in the meantime. All right, Thursday, October 5th, 1950. According to Geoff Cobb on greenpointers.com, it was just about noon on that day, seemingly like any other day in Greenpoint, in the Greenpoint neighborhood in Brooklyn. But 5 minutes later, all hell would break loose. America was at the height of the Red Scare, and news that the Soviets had the bomb was in everybody's mind. Constant air raid drilling at the creation of local fallout shelters. Constant air raid drilling and the creation of local fallout shelters in the case of nuclear war only heightened anxiety even higher. Okay, so everybody was nervous. Everybody thought the bomb was coming at any moment.
Yeah.
So suddenly, here in Brooklyn, a massive ear-splitting explosion at Huron and Manhattan Avenue occurred, causing terror. The power of the blast was so great that it blew manhole covers 50 feet in the air like champagne corks.
Holy shit.
And a 10-foot section of the street was vaporized. A reinforced concrete sewer was blown to pieces. 500 windows were shattered by the powerful explosion as blue flame belched from the manholes.
Wow.
For locals, there was only one.
That's like the scene in Game of Thrones at the end when they
blow up that city.
They blow up the entire city with the wizard fire or whatever the
that crazy
fuck it was.
blue fire, whatever, green fire, whatever.
Yeah.
For locals, there was only one explanation: the Russians had bombed New York.
Clearly.
And one frightened woman shouted out, "The Russians dropped an atom bomb. We'll all be burned alive." Hundreds of frightened families headed out on the street, certain that they would be roasted if they stayed indoors. 20 police cars and 3 police emergency squads rushed to the scene. Amazingly, only 3 people were injured, and only slightly in this whole thing.
Is that a thing that you have to go outside in case of a nuclear attack?
I think so. They thought that. I mean, keep in mind, they thought duck
Like,
and
is there
cover-
some scientific thing where if you're in a building, it roasts you?
Well, I think they were thinking the buildings would blow up or something, and then it's like a hot box or something. But
I'm just curious.
they also thought duck and cover would work.
Right.
You know,
I don't think they thought it would work. I think they just felt like, well, we got to tell them to do something.
you think?
Yeah.
Well, the city performed tests and learned that the blast was the result of an explosion of gas and oil fumes in the sewer. The explosion was soon forgotten. It was only 28 days later Greenpointers would learn the true cause of that. I mean, it was only 28 years later when Greenpointers would learn the true cause of the explosion. Mm-hmm. On September 1978, a U.S. Coast Guard helicopter on a routine patrol discovered a plume of oil flowing in the creek originating from a bulkhead at Meeker Avenue.
Okay.
Investigators revealed that there were 17 million gallons of oil under the ground here in this neighborhood of Brooklyn, covering 50 acres in and around Greenpoint. The sewer blew up because Greenpoint was sitting on a massive amount of potentially explosive oil in its aquifer.
Oh, my God.
Today, cleanup efforts have been underway for years, but still, millions of gallons of oil sit in a plume under eastern Greenpoint.
Ugh.
Isn't that weird? But now they're not. They don't care about the explosion. They're not worried about that, but they're worried that cancer. Is causing cancer is caused.
I
by
wonder if
those
they
carcinogens.
had cancer. What do they call them? Clusters.
Yeah, I don't know if they have, but on that same day,
Jeff Conaway. Amy hates birthdays.
Jeff Conaway was born.
I love the harmonies in
on that
that.
same day.
So awesome.
Isn't that the best thing
Yes.
ever? Oh, God, Amy hates birthdays. No, I came up with that idea. One of our listeners, a guy I work with, Bert, he gets a big kick out of you hating birthdays and me continuing to cover birthdays. He's like, God, she hates birthdays. Man, your wife hates birthdays. In fact, every time I see him, he's like, does your wife still hate birthdays? I'm like, yeah, she does. So I came up with that idea. And I shared that with him. And then when Matt sent me that theme song earlier this week, and I sent it right to Bert, and Bert loved it. Like, he sent me all these emojis. Like, oh my God, I can't wait. He started listening to our podcast like a month ago. And
Oh, really?
Well, probably about, I don't know, not a month ago, probably 6 months ago, during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And he's already on the 60s. Like, he's caught up.
Oh, my God.
He's caught up fast. He must not have
Oh,
anything
you know,
else
a
to do.
month ago and 6 months ago,
Yeah,
it's
all
like the same in this
Yeah.
pandemic.
I feel like there's no difference between April and now.
And at the same time,
Absolutely.
April
Yeah.
was feels like 10 years ago.
I'm doing the same thing. I'm binging Cheers. I'm sitting, doing a lot of sitting,
Yeah.
a lot of drinking.
A lot of getting
I spent
high.
most of the summer in a hammock, so there's a little bit of a difference because of the temperature change. But
Yeah,
that's
so
about it.
did you was your first foray into hammocking the pandemic?
Yeah, we got it, not specifically for the pandemic, but we'd always wanted one. We had 2 trees that are far enough apart, you can put one there, and we're like, we should put a hammock there, let's get a hammock. And then the next thing you know, you can't even, go to the grocery store. So I was like, well, this turned out to be a good idea.
Now, is it the kind of hammock that like wraps around your body, or is it the kind with the flat ends, so it's like a bigger one?
It wraps.
Oh, okay.
It's literally 2 ropes holding on to like a canvas thing, and it's kind of got a little bit of a, what do you want to call it? I don't know. What are the parts of hammocks called?
Yeah.
Where there's like a
who knows?
Let me ask you this, Matt Truman from Matt Truman Ego Trip. Would you have set up that hammock if there wasn't a pandemic?
Absolutely.
Oh, you would have anyway?
Yeah.
Okay. Was there anything that you've done because there's a pandemic? Oh, well, it's a pandemic.
I got one of those like $300 Walmart pool jobby for like 4 foot.
Oh, like the Intex ones or whatever?
Yes,
Swimming pools
that was a nightmare. That was a
was
nightmare. Yeah.
What was
we
was
live out in the country. We have sulfur water.
Oh.
So there was a difficulty keeping it clean, and then there was a difficulty keeping the chemicals balanced, and I never won.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, we got an above ground pool about how many years ago now? About 5 years ago now.
something like that.
Because we live in North Carolina, where it's 100 million degrees. We open it in March. That's how hot it gets here. And well, maybe not. One time we open it in March, usually April through like October.
Yeah.
And we hemmed and hawed about, should we get like an Intex thing you can just put up, or should we get an above ground and spend a little money? And we did. And I think, I know you always say it's the worst decision we ever made.
Yeah.
Because it's so much work trying to balance the chemicals and getting it right. And I don't have sulfur water, but still, it's like one slight rain, 2 days of rain, and you're like, fuck, it's all fucked. Nobody can use the pool for 3 days because it's all fucked. And then I thought, you know what? My kids don't give a shit what the balance is. Like,
right. Let them swim in slime.
That's how it ended up. I was like, oh, it's a little bit green today. Okay, whatever.
So
it's a little bit
not gonna
gray.
Die. Yeah,
Can't see my feet.
Yeah, too much chemicals isn't gonna. Like they say, oh, it'll make your bathing suit too white, or it'll bleach. Like nobody gives a fuck what our bathing suits look like.
Yeah,
you know? I'll just dump a bunch of chemicals in there and wish for the best. Anyway, that's the worst. I would say the biggest thing in the pandemic that I've done.
Overeat. This one of mine.
Besides overeating, I eat more. I eat more desserts. I sit more. I watch a lot more shows. I watch a lot more television, and I'm like ambitious about it. I'm like, I want to make it like a race, so that my goal is to make it that I'm kind of sad that the pandemic's over. Like I'm going to get through all the best picture movies in history, and if I can get that before the pandemic's over, then I've won. And then if I lose, the pandemic's over.
You've won what?
I've won the pandemic. I mean,
you're going to win.
I've grown my hair. My hair is the longest it's ever been. I've never once had long hair.
I cut mine after 5 years.
I saw you cut your hair.
You used to have it down here. And
you're normally a long-haired guy.
Yeah.
And you're a short-haired guy now. Like you look.
No, for a minute.
You look like
back.
You look like Brian Williams from MSNBC right now.
No, he does not.
Like a rockin'. I have longer hair than Matt Truman. That's never happened.
True.
It's never happened.
I can wear a man bun now. Anyway, all right, back to
those are very comfortable. I don't understand the pushback for man buns.
I think they're
sexy.
Yeah, you know what?
Very comfortable.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends making fun of me because I put in a man bun sometimes, but my wife digs
my
it.
wife.
There you
My
have
wife. If I'm more apt to get laid by my wife, then I win. Again, I win the pandemic.
Got a lot of rules.
I got a lot of rules. Okay, back to Jeff Conaway's birthday. If you talk about American television actor Jeff Conaway, online on Wikipedia, his birthday is on there, and he's credited.
Right.
It says American television actor Jeff Conaway, and it has 2 credits to his name. What 2 credits would you think? He was born in New York City, by the way. Oh, he died in 2011. Jeff Conaway's dead. Did you know that?
I did.
Oh, yeah, I did know that.
If you had to guess, I'm surprised by these 2 credits. This is American television actor from these 2 movies.
Taxi.
So it doesn't even give him credit for Grease. Do you know the other show besides Taxi? Taxi, or what other television?
Whatever, the Dr. Drew halfway house show.
Oh, yeah, Celebrity Rehab.
Celebrity Rehab.
No. This is something I didn't know he was on, but I'm not familiar with this.
Are you all
I got
right?
hiccups. I've been drinking.
Oh my God.
Babylon 5.
Huh. Yeah.
You guys big Babylon 5 fans?
Never watched it. No. Not at all.
Well, then I'm going to jump to October 7th, 1950, which was a Saturday. and you guys both aren't sports people, so you're going to be mad about this. But baseball's New York Yankees beat the Philadelphia Phillies 5-2 to win the 47th World Series in a 4-game sweep.
Okay.
The Phils had narrowly lost each of the first 3 games, 1-0, 2-1, and 3-2. And this is notable because this was the last all-white World Series, as neither club had integrated yet in 1950. Oh. It's an all-white World Series. God, just that's a thing. Anyway, here are the Hall of Famers that played in this World Series. Not that you guys will give a shit, but Casey Stengel was the manager. I'm probably saying that wrong. Yogi Berra, Joe DiMaggio, Whitey Ford, Johnny Mize, Phil Rizzuto, and for the Phillies, Richie Ashburn and Robin Roberts. Monday, October 9th, 1950, was a Monday, and it was the conviction and 180-day jail sentence of incumbent U.S. Senator Glenn H. Taylor of Idaho. Do you know who that is?
No.
His sentence was upheld on this day after the U.S. Supreme Court declined to review his case. Senator Taylor's crime had been to scuffle with police in Birmingham, Alabama, when he had walked through a door marked Negro entrance in order to attend a meeting with African-American students. Taylor was white, and he did not serve any time, despite threats by Birmingham's police chief, Bull Connor, who was the guy who originated, like, shooting hoses at black people or, like, civil rights people.
Yeah.
And sicking dogs on children that were in the civil rights movement. Bull Connor was going to have him extradited from Idaho to Alabama. Senator Taylor did, however, lose his bid for re-election 30 days later because of this, because he walked through a Negro-only door. On November 14th, he paid off his $200 bond and $28.60 in court costs. So I was just interested in this guy because he was a senator that was real liberal in this time. In 1950. Like, he was meeting with it was like the African American Boy Congress, or I can't remember what it's called exactly, but it was a group of African American kids. And to me, I'm fascinated by people like that who didn't give a fuck about anything. I don't care what you do to me.
Yeah.
So I wanted to look into this guy, Glenn H. Taylor. And as a kid, he had joined his brother's stock theater company, and then later he became a country western singer. And then he, in the Senate, he became known as the Singing Cowboy, and he acquired a reputation for eccentric behavior. Upon his arrival in Washington, D.C., Taylor rode his horse Nugget up the steps of the U.S. Capitol building, and Nugget also accompanied Taylor during a 1947 tour of the country, highlighting his anti-war activism and opposition to the time's U.S. foreign policy. It blows my mind that in 1950 there was a guy like this.
Yeah.
When he moved to Washington to prepare to be sworn in to a Senate seat, there was a housing shortage caused by World War II, and so his family couldn't find a place to live. So in response, Taylor, who was a musician and songwriter, he stood outside the U.S. Capitol building and he sang, "Oh, give us a home near the Capitol Dome with a yard for 2 children to play," to the home of the home on the range. He and his family were then offered several places to rent because he sat out there as a stunt singing.
And he was a senator?
He was a senator.
Oh, my God.
On election night in 1946, he made national headlines by allegedly breaking the jaw of a local Republican leader, Ray McCaig, in a hotel lobby in Boise. Taylor claimed that McCaig had called him an obscene name and struck him struck him first with a punch that broke his nose, but McCaig denied those claims. So he punched a Republican, and that he has a Roswell connection, according to Wikipedia. In July 1947, this Glenn H. Taylor was asked by the United Press reporter, what he thought about reports that remnants of a UFO had been found by the Air Force near Roswell. And Taylor replied that he almost hoped flying saucers would turn out to be spaceships from another planet. They could end our petty arguments on Earth. He went on to say that no matter what the UFOs turn out to be, they can't be laughed off. Even if it's only a psychological phenomenon, it's a sign that what the world is coming to. If we don't ease the tensions, the whole world will be full of psychological cases and eventually turn into a global nut house. Which he's correct. It has since turned into.
That's right.
Yeah. And then Tuesday, October 10th, 1950, the National Academy of Sciences announced the discovery of keeping bread fresh for several months without refrigeration by irradiating it with a beam of electrons of nearly 1,000,000-volt power.
God, why do we need to know that?
According to the National Academy of Science, the atomic preserver will work for any kind of bread. The statement did not include whether or not the bread would be safe to eat.
Then what's the fucking point of it?
It's fresh. And that brings us to Thursday, October 12th, 1950, where Matt Truman from the Matt Truman motherfucking Ego Trip has something to present us with. And Matt, I understand that you've put this all in song form that you're going to present.
I forgot. Forgot it already.
Yeah.
No, you don't have to perform it in song form.
On October 12th of 1950, Bill Canistra died. And I looked it up, and it's Bill Canistra, not Canistra.
Oh,
Canistra.
Okay. I wouldn't have known that.
He was a member of the early Beat Generation scene in New York. He was a wild man figure that the writers in the group found interesting, similar to their fascination with Neil Cassidy. He was a character in books like Go, Visions of Cody, and he was described in Allen Ginsberg's Howl.
Are
He
those
died.
things you're familiar with?
I know what Allen Ginsberg's Howl is.
Okay.
Do you know Visions of Cody by Jack Kerouac?
I know
Jack
who Jack Kerouac is, but I don't know that.
Yeah,
that book.
I'm so dumb when it comes to this kind of stuff.
I thought I was into the Beats, but I never even knew this dude existed until now.
I would think Matt Truman would be like a guy who knows about the Beat Generation.
Yeah.
And I don't know much about it.
Me neither.
On October 12th, Bill Canistra, I'm saying it all different ways now. But it's Canistra. Bill Canistra died on October 12th, 1950, in a drunken stunt where he was trying to climb out of a subway car window just as it was pulling away from the platform, and he was decapitated.
Whoa.
Yeah. I didn't get like that.
The person he was with said he was jokingly said, "I'm just going to go out and get a drink," and tried to go out the window. And then
So
as
he
the
was
train,
joking?
He was like
he was
fucking around.
joking.
Well,
He
he's
was gonna
drunk, right?
Yeah, he was totally drunk.
Yeah.
He was always drunk, evidently. And so
this was bound
he
to
got
happen.
like about halfway out, and the train picked up speed, and they were trying to pull him back in. But his coat ripped as people were trying to pull him back into the thing, and he hit the tunnel before they could get in.
Ouch.
His head is decapitated.
Yeah,
so
they found him like
100
100 yards behind the train with his brains coming out of his temple.
Oh, his whole
But
body.
I don't think he was decapitated. His whole body got pulled out.
See, I was picturing just his head get smashed
I was
off.
picturing his body coming back in the train with a missing head.
They said decapitated, but I don't know. Does decapitated mean that your whole head comes off?
I think as long as you're... Yeah, I think
I
decapitated,
think
as long as your head is detached.
Yeah, it can't be attached at all.
At all? Like,
Yeah, I
even
don't
if
think...
it's hanging there, you're not decapitated?
I think you're partially decapitated. If it's...
Yeah, like Franklin Pierce's son was decapitated in front of him.
Oh,
Yikes.
my God.
The 14th president.
What a horrific thing. That's probably
Now,
like the most
here's-
have happen.
Oh, jeez. I don't want to
Here's what's even more interesting. After Canistra was dead, he was Bill Canistra was living with Joan Haverty at the time of his death. Shortly afterwards, she met Jack Kerouac, who immediately proposed to her.
Oh,
Whoa.
really? Right after he died?
It was in the loft where Canistra lived with Joan.
Whoa.
So maybe there was something going on.
Yeah, and that's the same apartment where Jack Kerouac found sheets of tracing paper, which he then used to write On the Road in April 1951.
Whoa.
Wow.
That's
Wow,
pretty
that's
cool.
cool.
I mean, that's an iconic thing.
Yeah.
Wait, he wrote On the Road in 1951?
Yeah, I don't know how long it took to get published, but he wrote it on an entire scroll of this paper. Evidently, that was this decapitated dude's paper.
Wow.
After stealing his girlfriend.
Jeez.
Man, so we talked a little bit before we started recording about the Beat generation and how I'm an idiot. I'll admit that, but I don't like this is where one of the things why I'm obsessed with chronology and time and timelines, because I always thought the Beat generation was more 60s. Like I think
those were the beatniks. I think
Beatniks,
was
yeah.
more
I didn't
later beats.
Yeah, I didn't know that was a
Didn't
thing
know the
that
difference.
came out of something from the 50s. Like, I had no idea. Like, I'm surprised that you told me On the Road was 51. Like, in my brain, that's a 60s thing. Mm-hmm. I don't know why.
I think it was popular in the 60s, I think.
Maybe it became more popular.
Yeah.
But it was older then. So, I mean, I picture probably just what I've seen in pop culture. People snapping, dressing as mimes and berets or whatever. And just like, I don't know. But...
I think beatniks were more of like the hippie versus hipster type of thing, whereas the beat poets and things like that was more. Well, and they also said after he died, that's when the beats got more serious, whereas before they were just kind of like a loose gang of drunkards white guys who like jazz, things like that, and writers. I'm a writer, right. But they hadn't really published anything really until after this guy died, and then that kind of snapped them into being serious about their artistry. So that's why you have Howl and On the Road and other things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess
because they found out they could die. I guess because I guess this guy was. I mean, he was a crazy guy, like out drunk everybody at the party and all that kind of business.
I guess things like this and realizing that these kind of people existed in the 50s is just, I guess it just reinforces the belief that like people are the same. Time, we just go through time.
Right.
Well, that's the thing too. He was like a rich kid who went to Harvard and stuff like that, and then ended up being a scummy drunk artist type of dude. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Same thing you see these days.
Yeah, that's the same kind of thing. Like rich kids go into it doesn't matter your background as much. I mean, it does matter based on your life experiences, but it doesn't mean you can't join a movement or a type of style. But it's fascinating to me just to see like the evolution of time, and then there's the same kind of people. There's the burnouts or the hippies or the whatever that in the 90s they were the grunge. Chris Cornell, if he was born in the 60s, would have been a hippie. I don't know, maybe Chris Cornell, but I don't know
well, it's your political beliefs, whether you veer to the left or the right.
Well, yeah, it's like how
it just changes in the machinations or whatever.
Right.
Change, but the core values are
well, I think when I was in
same.
college, like there was different degrees of people. I don't know, like Matt Truman was like in bands and like him and like Matt Rock.
You're trying to call him a burnout?
No, like a hippie. like he was the guy at Howard's playing a guitar with long hair, smoking a bunch of weed, and like, and like, I don't know, but then there were like guys who played sports or whatever in this, where they also smoked weed. But there's the art people.
Yeah.
I mean, like
who also smoked weed.
Who smoked weed. I was in the art world.
Everybody should smoke weed.
Everybody should smoke weed.
No.
I don't know. It's
every
just
day.
I think it's just like I don't know. It just fascinates me how there's the same groups of people, and they kind of can overlap a little bit in every decade or whatever.
Another story of this dude is that he would like go to the bars in Chelsea where the sailors were, and then he'd like grab a sailor and totally French him and say, "Buy me a beer."
Oh my God.
And
in the 50s?
In the 50s, and he would get his ass beat, and then afterwards they'd buy him a beer because they were like, well, at least he's not a pansy. You can take a beer.
Oh my God.
That's fucking crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guy was nuts.
Oh, and that reminds me of the fact that, like, there's nothing that blows my mind more than gay people in the 50s. Like gays in that time period where like it wasn't even a thing. Yeah, it was a fucking thing.
Right.
It was, and everybody
Right.
knew. You just didn't fucking talk about it.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah, like that. Like people that were.
People have been gay forever.
There's been gay people forever.
Mm-hmm.
And like
Since there's been people.
Yeah, since there's been people.
Yeah.
And they just didn't give a fuck. Like I always talk about. We've already had a gay president, James
Buchanan. Yeah.
Who was right before. He was the worst president ever, but not because he was gay.
Not anymore.
Oh, no, yeah, not anymore. He's not the worst.
No.
Yeah. So anyway, but nobody cared that he was gay. They just called him Aunt Nancy, and it was like, yeah, he's gay. That's just part of what he is. Nobody gives a shit.
I think people cared. They just ignored it.
I don't think they
those
hated
people with
it,
ringworm or whatever.
Yeah, everybody had ringworm.
They were real mad. How dare you get sexual pleasure?
That's right.
You don't deserve it.
Our fucking history is fucked up, it's fucked up. Like,
it really is.
Stop saying our founding fathers would be rolling over in their grave. They were They had ringworm.
They had slaves.
Do you have any more about Bill
slave
Canastra?
teeth.
Yeah, they had slave teeth in their mouth.
Slave teeth.
Just that Bill Canastra was, let me see if I can find all of the things.
Yeah.
In literature, he was a character, Finestra, in Visions of Cody by Jack Kerouac. He was described in Howl. They have a little thing of Howl about but I don't care. We're probably not even allowed to air that because of copyright issues.
Oh, gosh.
In other literature, Ginsberg wrote a lot about him because Ginsberg is a name dropper. But in fact, he has a poem called "The Names," and he discusses Canastra under the name Bill King. He discusses him in a poem called "In Memoriam William Canastra."
So Canastra was only 29. So I wonder.
He was 28. He wasn't yet 29.
Oh, he's 28.
So, yeah.
I wondered if, I always have this theory about people who die young. Like, if Paul McCartney would have died when John Lennon died and John Lennon was still alive, would we be like, yeah, John Lennon's not that great. Paul McCartney's the great one. You know, like
some people are. I mean, some people can't stand John Lennon, but.
Oh, what?
Yeah, it's true.
But, I don't know. I looked up Bleecker Street Station where this happened, and I was there once in that area. There was like a club there that I went to.
Nobody cares.
Oh, here's another thing.
Yes.
So it was his girlfriend who was who got married to Jack Kerouac a month after he died. She used to dress in drag as a sailor and join him, and they would like peeping Tom and stuff.
Oh
Like,
wow!
window peeping in the streets at night in 1949.
That's
Holy cow!
Up.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Huh.
Pariahs.
Yeah. Really weird.
Yeah, you don't think of any of that happening. You think of the 40s as everybody who was our grandparents and they were just straight-laced and nothing weird happened. Or not, I shouldn't say weird, but nothing cool like now.
Right.
But that's the Beat Generation. I want to dive into this and read.
All right,
They wrote about. I mean, they loved themselves so much they wrote books about each other. So there's plenty out there to get into.
If you were in the late 40s, early 50s, would you be a beat?
Oh, totally.
Yeah, Matt Truman would totally be a beat guy.
Beat poet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I own 2 saxophones. I mean,
you're already there.
All right, great. That Matt Truman, that was fine. That was perfectly great. That was great. That was good stuff. I don't understand the Beat Generation, so I think if you explain it to me someday.
Do you understand white kids into rap and stuff like that?
Yeah,
Remember in the 80s? It's the same thing.
Well, if you look
the
at like the Beastie Boys are somebody that I'm a big fan of, and you look at their history, they were these kind of kids in Brooklyn and Manhattan and whatever, and they were like these punk rock kids that met. You know, what's the guy's name who started them or whatever? Not Russell Simmons, but the guy, Rick Rubin or whatever. And he was like, "Hey, rap is this thing," and they loved rap. So they were the same kind of kid. They were like hippie kids, and I guess I get it. It's the same. It's the same no matter what. It's the same no matter time, no place.
Yeah.
All right, and then on Friday, October 13th, 1950, the drama film All About Eve starring Betty Davis, Ann Baxter, George Sanders, and Celeste Holm was released.
I feel like we talked
a
about
great
that
movie.
on our.
Well, we are not going to talk about this because we were guests on a podcast called
What the fuck is?
Who the Fuck Is?
Who the fuck is?
It's a Scottish podcast by these young Scottish guys who are just out of college, who are young enough to be our children.
Yeah.
We found out. Anyway, they talk about movies, and they talked about a 1950 movie just because we were on 1950, and we had them a couple of weeks ago.
On our
Listen to
podcast,
their
yeah.
podcast about this if you want to hear us talk about All About Eve, because we get in depth. And now I'm going to jump a bunch of days to October 20th, 1950, and Amy, you can't get mad at me for doing the birthday song again because this. Tom Petty.
Well, that's a good one.
That never fucking gets old. It will get old eventually, but that is so great. Tom Petty.
You think it'll get old eventually?
Eventually, it might. It's just so great. I feel like it's David. This is the ultimate. This is like the most. I feel like David Letterman. That's Paul Schaefer. Like
Yeah.
Paul Schaefer would do that.
That's true.
Tom Petty was born in Gainesville, Florida.
Oh, okay.
Great guy.
I had no idea he was born in Gainesville, and I recently have really become a Tom Petty fan, and I will admit
I've always been a Tom Petty fan. I
know
went to see him.
You've always loved Tom Petty. You've seen him live. I didn't really care for Tom Petty that much. I
Yeah.
don't want to say I didn't care for him. I didn't think he was that great. But lately, and I do this posthumously, when somebody dies.
Yeah.
I listen to all their albums, and I did that with Tom Petty. I was like, "Fuck, I missed out while he
Yeah.
was alive." Like, fuck.
He's good.
And now I like the Traveling Wilburys even more, and like I listen to more Tom Petty. I'm like, what was I fucking doing? What
You know,
was I
if there's like a 3-hour documentary out there about Tom Petty, and it's one of the best documentaries I've ever seen, music bio or not. It's
Really?
just one of the greatest. And the fact that it's full of Tom Petty music, you know.
Yeah.
Where can I
If you've
find
never
that?
seen it.
Is it on Netflix or is it? I feel like
It may
I
have
know.
been on Netflix. It's probably on Amazon if it's you could
I
probably
feel
rent
like
it
I
if it's
know
not
where you're-
on Prime.
It's a 3-hour documentary.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
And the DVD that we had, it's like a 3-hour documentary, and then the other DVD was like a 3-hour concert. So it's like 6
yeah.
hours.
So you're a Tom Petty fan.
Big,
Well, Matt
yeah.
Truman knows music. Like that's the thing. Like,
Right.
somebody like him like would know. So I should ask you now, like, who am I sleeping on that I will like when they die?
Yeah.
No.
You don't know who I'm sleeping on. But Tom Petty, he always fascinated me. But I feel like I am a product of 80s, like 80. You know, I was 4 in 1980, so like
You're more a product of the 90s, I'd say.
maybe 80s
Yeah,
and
yeah.
90s. But I was tainted by the 80s. So like
Yeah.
Neil Young, I didn't realize was a kick-ass guy because I knew him as the guy who sang "Wanderin'." I'm wandering. He was like that dirty guy that sang that "Wanderin'" song. That
I have
people-
never even heard that song.
I don't know
most
what you're talking about.
Yeah, people who know Neil Young don't even know what that is. But he had a song on MTV in the 80s, and he was this weird fucking homeless-looking dude. Like, what the fuck is that? And that's what I knew Neil Young as. And then later, when I learned about,
Yeah.
who Neil Young was, I was like, fuck, he's an iconic, unbelievable guy. And that was one fucking shitty song he did in the 80s. And so
Right.
Tom Petty was the same. Like, I knew him as this weird-looking dude in the 80s. And then when I look back, it's like, fuck, these songs are great. Like, I don't know.
I have a couple of Tom Petty touchstones for myself. First of all, Tom Petty was potentially going to be the first concert I ever went to, but he smashed his hand and they canceled the tour.
bummer.
Oh, shit. So how old were you then?
Oh, I don't know. I was probably still too young to go, but me and my friend were like, "Oh hell yeah, we're gonna go see Tom Petty." But I was
Yeah.
like, in elementary school. And then, the first guitar solo I ever learned, "You Got Lucky" by Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers.
All right.
Oh, that's
With
awesome.
I was just listening to that. That was
Yeah.
1982.
Was that 82?
82.
Really?
There's no way.
Well,
Was that 82?
I think so.
No. Well, I mean, I wasn't 9 when I learned it, but that was the first.
I just listened to
Guitar
that.
solo.
I was just listening to that on my 1982 playlist. That's why I think it was that. I could be wrong. You got lucky, baby. Anyway.
Yeah. Good
Fuck. So I don't know why I guess I shouldn't complain, but it's like I find out later that these people are kick-ass. I think I'm almost 50. I'm 45.
You don't know how
44.
old you are.
I don't know how old I am, but at this point I've probably figured out who kicks ass and who doesn't. But
here's a rule of thumb. If they have a career that lasts like 40, 50 years, they probably kick ass.
they're probably good. They're probably kicking
Yeah.
ass. But like right now, I was just thinking of the phenomenon of this this Fleetwood Mac song that just became popular on TikTok.
It's never been unpopular. I don't understand what
Yeah.
people are going on about.
Yeah, I wanted to ask your opinion on that. So, yeah, that song, we all know that
Which
song.
one? Which one is it?
Dreams.
Oh, I love that song.
Yeah, so it's a great song. But I'm one of these people that's a victim, or that I'm part of this problem. Like, I know that's a great song, but I'd never thought about playing that until that fucking dude rode his skateboard playing that song. Like,
Rumors is one of the most classically talked about albums that ever existed. I don't understand why
I
people
gotta
are
say,
like,
when that-
such a resurgence.
Yeah.
Maybe in sales, I guess, but
part of
no one
it-
ever. It didn't disappear. Ever.
No, it didn't disappear, but I think like young people discovered it.
Right.
And so I kind of vicariously through like my daughter loves TikTok, so I keep on it just to like, I want to be aware of what she's listening to. So when I hear it in another room, like, fuck, turn that off. That's a bunch of dicks or people's butts
Yeah.
or whatever else. So, but when this dude like started riding a skateboard playing that song, like this dude with tattoos on his head, drinking like a
Ocean spray.
ocean spray out of the bottle. It makes no sense, but like for some reason that made you realize how kick-ass. God, that fucking song does kick ass. Even that guy loves it. And then so but like you said, I re-listened to that whole album because of that. Like I was like, yeah, I want to listen to that. And I was like, fuck, this album's great. And I had already listened to it. And I knew Fleetwood Mac was good, but I can't get enough. And now people are covering that Dream song. Like Kelly, I was just listening today. Kelly Clarkson covered it. And say what you want about Kelly Clarkson, I am no longer ashamed of the fact that I like pop music.
Yeah, you like some divas.
I like terrible shit. Kelly Clarkson she can sing.
Yeah.
Totally.
Like, say whatever she is, whatever, but she sings that song, and it's like, but it brings you all this stuff like, yes, Stevie Nicks rules, and that song rules, and she kicked ass at singing this song.
Another thing, I have a book about the recording of that album, Rumors, and it's written by the guy who engineered the record, who is Kobe Colette.
Oh, the one who did Bubbly?
Yeah, it comes to my nose. Yeah.
That was a
That chick,
closet
her
song.
dad was the engineer on Rumors, and he wrote a book about the recording of the album. It's all about cocaine and everybody hating each other.
Really?
Pretty
Oh,
cool.
that's funny.
Wait, her dad was the engineer.
Mm-hmm.
What? That blows my mind. Bring it to knowledge, Matt Truman. So I got to meet Lindsey Buckingham. Came to our show, our theater, and did a show. And I met him briefly, but his tour manager, I spent a lot of time talking to him. And tour managers are the best guy to talk to. They're just like old road guys smoking a bunch of weed. And they just give you all the dish. So I was like, oh, so what's going on with him and Stevie Nicks? Are they on speaking terms? And they had, there aren't, I was like, no. And he gave me the whole dish about like why they hate each other, and like all the, how it all started and why they hate each other and all this stuff. I don't quite remember it now, but it's all his like perspective. But it's cool to sit here and bullshit with these old roadie guys that like are with all these guys. And Lindsey Buckingham was fine. He was nice, but even after this guy gave me Lindsey Buckingham's whole side, I still was like, yeah, it's still on Stevie Nicks' side, I think.
Yeah.
On this whole thing. But
Yeah, I mean, it was the 70s, and he was a dude.
yeah.
Right.
I mean, yeah, of course. Yeah, it was all about like, I can't remember exactly what it was, but he was like, well, he and Stevie started banging, and he wanted to bang exclusively, and she's Stevie Nicks, so she's not gonna, or whatever it was. I can't.
Well,
remember.
Stevie banged Mick Fleetwood, too. So.
Yeah, and he talked about that a little bit, and she was with both guys and here and there, but she liked him better, but he didn't, I don't know.
Right.
But I can't
But
remember.
a mess.
Yeah, it was a mess. But
Meanwhile, John and Christine, they're breaking up, too, and they got to
But-
do this and that.
But, you got to fuck, and you got to put out music. So,
I don't know. It's kind of shitting where you eat.
But you're on the road. Like, think about it. You're on a bus. You're on a bus.
It's bound to happen, I guess.
Stevie and Lindsay were already a couple. That's how they got to
That's how they started,
Fleetwood
right?
Mac.
Yeah.
Like Fleetwood Mac, Mick Fleetwood and John McVie were like, "Hey, Lindsey Buckingham, we want you." And he was like, "Well, if you take me, you got to take my girlfriend too."
Oh,
like,
wow.
Okay.
Well,
and then they see like Stevie Nicks. They're like, "Woo, yeah, we will."
Yeah.
And they sure did.
Yeah.
Good for that. Lucky for
ended
them.
up being-
They wouldn't be nearly as good without her.
Yeah. Stevie Nicks. Yeah, she was great. But again, that's another thing. It goes back to this whole thing. Like, when I grew up, I knew that Stevie Nicks. What's that weird video? Or the.
Stand Back.
What is it?
Stand Back.
No, what's the video where she's wearing all the white and she's knocking over. That everybody makes fun of? Like the.
Stand Back.
The video.
There's like wind. She's on a treadmill and moon boots and stuff. And here's a great story about Stand Back was that it was ripped off of Little Red Corvette. It was supposed to be the answer song to Prince's Little Red Corvette.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What?
If you listen to the chord changes and everything, you can sing either song over top of the other.
Wow.
It's crazy.
I didn't know that.
No, what's the one from the 80s where everybody makes fun of, like, the words don't make any sense? It was in, like, the Wedding Singer, or,
That's not Fleetwood Mac,
no,
I don't think.
when Stevie Nicks just did it. And so that's why I thought Stevie Nicks was that, what's that fucking song where they sing
Are you thinking
it?
of Turn Around Bright Eyes?
Totally Eclipse of the
That's
Heart.
not
Yeah.
Stevie Nicks.
Stevie Nicks.
That's
Oh my
not
God,
Stevie
this is the
Nicks.
part where I'd be yelling, listening
not
to you
Stevie
guys
Nicks.
in my
No,
car.
that's
Like
Stevie Nicks. That's
Who's that?
Bonnie Tyler.
yes, Bonnie Tyler.
Okay, never mind. Never mind. Here's where you be yelling at that podcast.
That's what I said. This is
Well, I would have set him straight on that one.
Total Eclipse of the Heart. I thought that was Stevie Nicks.
No.
All right, I am a
God
terrible
damn.
person. I'm a terrible person. I mean, we've talked. I feel like we've talked so much about the communism thing. Like we've established that it was
Right.
fucking nuts.
Yeah.
Communism.
Right.
Everybody was accusing everybody of being a communist. So I'll just touch on briefly these things. On October 22nd, 1950, there were various provisions of the Geneva Convention were put in place. The war stuff.
Yeah.
Remember we talked about last episode how the Geneva, there's rules of war. Some of that was put into place. That same day, the Saturday Evening Post ran an investigative report by William Warden entitled UCLA's Red Cell, A Case History of College Communism. Well, not actually accusing of UCLA of being plagued by communists. Warden reported that the Poor Boys, it was known as the Poor Boys College, offered the opportunity for communist infiltration and cited student protests against racial discrimination as examples of the red influence. So they were like passing off anything civil rights related as
It's communism. Yeah.
And they were saying because they accepted
Because they want
poor people.
The theories of communism want people to be equal and
Everybody have a
theoretically
chance, and that's communism. Yeah, so
white patriarchy doesn't want to give up their power.
it just may.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah.
That's exactly.
that's a college thesis.
Yeah, it's a college. It's another podcast, and we're not going to do everything, but basically, fucking shit sucked in our country. It was based on shit. But on October 22nd, 1950, that was a Sunday. That was the day that the Internal Security Act of 1950, which I think the McCarran Act, which I might have mentioned before, it went into effect. And the U.S. Department of Justice began a series of midnight raids across the nation, arresting resident aliens who were suspected of subversive activities. So it kind of ties into that whole thing. Monday, October 23rd, film actor Errol Flynn was served with a criminal summons on the day of his marriage to Patrice Wymore in Monaco, and he was charged with a rape of a 16-year-old girl a year earlier. The young lady, a resident of Monte Carlo, had accused Flynn of luring her aboard his yacht and then sexually assaulting her. After more than a year, Monacoan court would dismiss the charges after concluding that there was no evidence to support the accusations.
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit about that last episode because you had something that happened at the same time. And I had no idea that Errol Flynn was a horrible
Rapist.
pedophile.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's where the term "in like Flynn"
Yeah.
comes from.
Yep,
What?
That's right.
I had no idea.
Yep.
What? Really?
Because he did all these crazy, creepy shits and got away with them.
Because he was in like Flynn. I didn't know
He was.
that.
Yeah.
Fuck. Boy, you learn something new every day. And I learned that from Matt Truman. That same day, Al Jolson died. He was 64 years old. American musician once known as the world's greatest actor. Best known for starring in the first sound film, The Jazz Singer.
In blackface.
A month earlier, yeah. That's the thing. Al Jolson is known for doing blackface and doing all this stuff. But I looked into his biography a little bit because I was like, yeah, Al Jolson. I just know racist fucking asshole. But I looked into his biography, and it goes in this whole weird paradox of kind of like Beulah. Like, it was like, yeah, it gave the first African-American money and an actress or whatever, but it was racist and horrible. Al Jolson did blackface, and that was terrible. But his bio, like, black people loved him because he stood up. He stood up for Cab Calloway. He saw Cab Calloway was being treated differently in the
Music community
the
or
world,
whatever.
and
Yeah.
he was in the entertainment industry, and he was like, no, he needs to get the same rights as a white person, and like he stood up for black people and did all this stuff, but he fucking did blackface. Like,
Yeah.
it's like
I mean, because that was the times. I mean,
yeah.
it's weird. If you look at Neil Diamond version movie of The Jazz Singer, he also does blackface in that movie. It's crazy. And that was what? The 80s.
In the 80s. What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did?
Well, and there's been others. They're in the
Silver Streak.
Yeah,
where-
Silver Streak. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, a lot of times,
enough
like,
about it.
especially, I think in the Neil Diamond one and in obviously Silver Streak, because that was Gene Wilder and
Eugene Levy. No, not Eugene.
No.
Gene Wilder. No, Gene Wilder and
I just said
Richard
Gene
Pryor.
Wilder.
Sorry.
Richard Pryor.
Richard Pryor.
Where
yeah.
he had to, Richard Pryor actually put him in blackface
Yeah.
in Silver Streak.
Right.
So it's always sometimes it's about using racist tropes to as commentary
Yeah.
about racism.
Right.
Right.
So,
It's a little different.
although I don't think Al Jolson was doing commentary.
No, it definitely wasn't. But it's a weird fucking paradox in that he did. I mean, if you look at his biography on even just Wikipedia, like, he really stood up for, and he was known as, and I think even throughout the blackface and everything, like, he was known for bringing, like, jazz music to white people, kind of like Elvis.
Right.
Like, we all know
Yeah.
Elvis is like, yeah, he
That's
stole.
not always shown. That's not always smiled upon, though. Like,
Right.
Elvis's legacy isn't always just. I mean,
No.
there's plenty of black people who are not digging Elvis.
No, fuck Elvis.
Yeah.
He never meant shit to me. Like Public
Yeah.
Enemy says it. And that is.
Well, there you go,
yeah.
Chuck D.
Chuck D. We'll tell you,
greatest rapper.
There we go. He could be the greatest rapper. Maybe it's Chuck D. But like, that's it. Like, I remember not knowing why do people hate Elvis, and I looked at it, I was like, fuck. And I took a black music intro to black music in college. Bowling Green, one thing about BGSU you have to say is, like, they have this whole pop culture library.
Yeah.
That has so much
Oh, for
shit.
sure.
And so I took this black history, and I learned all this stuff about how I listened to these recordings of, like, old slave songs and whatever that were, like, songs that Elvis took and made popular. I'm like, fuck him. He made all this money on these people. They already wrote that. But it was like, the argument was that, well, he brought that to everyone. Like, everyone became more open to it because Elvis sang it. And it was a time where you couldn't listen to, and I don't know, whatever the argument is, and I don't know, and I'm not taking a stand on anything except just that fucking we're in a country that's fucking built on this bullshit.
Yeah.
But Al Jolson, but it was just there's just a lot of stuff about how he really, like, reached out to people in the entertainment industry who were black and made sure they were treated the same way as white people. So they looked at him as a hero, even though he did blackface,
Right.
which was like, but I guess it puts in the argument, like, what's the alternative? It's either
Exactly.
blackface or they don't exist. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not saying what's right, but it's fucked up.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It is.
Well, and then not only that, but he died in 1950, and we're still dealing with the same
Yeah.
ass shit.
we're still wondering about it and talking about it. He died playing gin rummy at his hotel suite in the Hotel St. Francis when he suffered his fatal heart attack.
Wow.
He was playing rummy with friends. Yeah. And then we're going to skip all the way to Saturday, October 28th, 1950. And Amy, you have something to
Yes.
share with us.
So I'm going to talk about the Bennington Triangle.
Do you know what that is, Matt Truman?
The Bennington Triangle, no.
Okay, so
Yeah, I never heard of this
last
either.
week we talked about the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about the Bermuda Triangle came out as a thing in 1950.
But did you know that there is another triangle right here in the U.S. of A?
No, I did not know there was.
U.S. and A.
U.S. and A?
Yep. So this is in Vermont, in kind of in the mountains, and it's said to be cursed. Native Americans have a lot of lore over there.
Okay.
Where they thought that the stones in the mountain would open up and swallow people whole.
Really?
Yeah. And it was named the Bennington Triangle by author Joseph A. Citro. And it spans the ghost town of Glastonbury, once a small logging community in the southwestern region of Vermont. And then when the logging boom died down at the end of the 19th century, the town was abandoned, and now it's just most of it is wilderness.
Okay. Still, to this day, it's mostly wilderness?
Yes. Well, as of the 2010 census, a mere 8 people lived there.
8? 8?
Yeah.
Huh.
So
Talk about rural.
it's also it was the only reason that Native Americans would go there is for burials
Okay.
before, like, way back in the day. And
It's got to be haunted. Nothing but dead bodies.
right. So also it was said that the 4 winds met there in an eternal struggle. That's what the Native Americans thought.
The 4 winds?
Yeah. While most of this
South, east, west.
Yeah. While most refer to this as a myth, there is some truth to it. The wind pattern on Glastonbury Mountain is so erratic that weather changes suddenly and plants grow at odd angles. So,
Okay.
and I'll talk about this a little bit later, but when plants lean a certain way based on how the wind blows,
Yeah.
they grow at a certain angle.
Right.
And humans kind of
And if this has
naturally,
winds blowing
when a
every-
human is like trying to navigate natural world, they kind of go where the plants are bending. Naturally, we
Really?
do that.
Okay.
But in this mountain, the wind blows at all these odd angles, and it blows real erratically. So all the plants are kind of at all these different angles, and it's real easy to get disoriented.
Really?
Yeah, that's what they said.
Okay. I believe it.
So it all began with a string of disappearances over 70 years ago. Add to that unsolved murder and strange sightings, which continue to this day. And you have one strange triangle.
All right. I want to hear more about this triangle.
So there have been stories of people going missing in the area, including a man named Carroll Herrick in 1943. He went missing during a hunting trip about 10 miles northeast of the ghost town of Glastonbury. His body was discovered 3 days later, surrounded by huge, mysterious footprints. He had been squeezed to death.
Squeezed?
That's what it said.
Now, when you say mysterious footprints, is it like some are 3-toed and
No,
some
they're just
are like boots?
Big. It just said they were
Oh, big? Like giants?
huge. Yeah.
All right.
In 1945, a 5-year span of disappearances began in the Bennington Triangle with the vanishing of Mitty Rivers, who was a 74-year-old man. He was a hunting guide, and he led a party of 4 hunters around the area of Hell Hollow in the southwest woods of Glastonbury before he was suddenly lost.
Huh.
And then they did a search,
Yeah.
and it was unsuccessful. Soon, more than 300 concerned locals and U.S. Army soldiers combed through the wilderness for 8 days, but they never found any
They never found any trace of him?
trace of him.
Huh.
Then the following year saw arguably the most infamous missing persons case, the disappearance of Paula Weldon.
Okay, let's
She-
hear about this.
She was an 18-year-old student at Bennington College. She wanted to go take a hike, the long trail during the Thanksgiving break when most of her peers had returned home
Okay.
for the holiday. And several people had seen her go, including a store employee in Bennington who had given her directions and an elderly couple who were hiking about 100 yards behind her for a time.
All right.
She was last seen on Sunday, December 1st, 1946.
Oh, the same day that Miguel Alemán Valdez was sworn into office as the 46th president of Mexico and as the nation's first civilian president since Venustiano Carranza's death in 1920?
Yes.
That same day?
Yep. So she was wearing real easy to spot bright red jacket.
Okay.
And they saw her entering the long trail near Glastonbury Mountain. She never showed up for her Monday classes, though.
Uh-oh.
And so they did a massive search party. There was more than 1,000 people, but no clues have ever been discovered.
They never found anything.
Nope. And the case remains open to this day.
Really?
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. That's a long time.
So then, exactly 3 years to the day after Paula Weldon vanished, which was December 1st, 1949.
Oh, the same day that Pablo Escobar, a drug lord, was born in Rio Negro, Colombia. He died in 1993.
Yes.
That same day?
Yep. The Bennington Triangle saw one of its more seemingly supernatural disappearances. That day, a 68-year-old man named James E. Tedford boarded a bus to Bennington after visiting relatives in St. Albans, Vermont.
All right.
Numerous eyewitnesses, including the driver, later confirmed that Tedford had been in his seat as late as the last stop before Bennington, right?
Ooh.
Yet when the bus finally pulled into Bennington, Tedford was nowhere to be found.
He disappeared on a bus.
Mm-hmm. The baffled passengers noted that his luggage and an open bus timetable remained on his seat.
That's weird.
And so, if they're correct, Tedford would have disappeared from his seat as the bus was traveling down Route 7 through the Bennington Triangle.
So he disappeared on the bus.
Yes.
That's weird.
Vanished.
I've never heard
Was
of
it a
this.
bus with like a bathroom or?
I don't know.
Yeah, does it have a bathroom?
I'm sure they checked the bathroom.
I know a guy who one time was on a bus that had a bathroom, but you weren't allowed to poop on there.
Yeah.
But he was drunk and he had diarrhea.
Ew. What are you telling this story
And
for?
so he was on the bathroom where he could only pee, but he had diarrhea.
Ew.
And there was no toilet paper, so he had to use his socks.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, I wish I could say that was an odd predicament.
Yeah, really.
That's probably pretty common. So this guy might have had that same thing.
Maybe. Then, nearly a
And
year
he was
later.
so embarrassed he jumped out the window in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, maybe
That
he
would
did
make
wiggle
sense.
out the window of the bathroom.
I think we just solved this.
We might have. Okay, so then nearly a year later, on October 12th, 1950.
Oh, the same day that the George Burns and Gracie Allen show premiered on the CBS television network, after the husband and wife comedy team became the latest to make a transition from radio. The radio program had run for 13 years as the Burns and Allen show, but Gracie reportedly was petrified during the initial live TV broadcast because she never had to memorize her lines before. Because on radio, she could read from a script without being seen by the home audience.
Right.
That same day?
Yes. Let's see. 8-year-old Paul Jepson went missing. He was last
Carly
seen.
Rae Jepsen's.
He was last seen happily playing in the family pickup truck by his mother, who left to tend the pigs at the dump, where she and her husband were caretakers.
Oh.
Then he vanished without a
why
trace.
were there pigs at the dump?
That's a good question. That's a really good question.
Maybe they...
That's where they fed them, I suppose.
Yeah.
That's
You know,
where he
if
just
you-
kept them.
In addition to the hundreds assembled for a search party, a New Hampshire sheriff brought in a bloodhound to sniff out the missing boy. The dog was able to pick up his scent, but abruptly lost the trail at a nearby crossroads, suggesting a possible abduction by a motorist.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So then the case kind of drags on without a resolution. Some people suggested Jepson met an early demise at the hands of his parents and was dinner for the pigs. But the boy's father told Albany Times-Union that perhaps the lure of the mountains that pulled his son, and as the boy talked of nothing else for days prior to the disappearance. So I don't know what that's about.
Nuts.
That sounds like the dad's trying to redirect the argument a little bit.
Yeah. could
Maybe
be.
it was his parents. Then on October 28th, 1950.
Oh, the same day that radio and film comedian Jack Benny brought his show to television with the premiere of a live broadcast from New York of the Jack Benny program.
Yes.
Opening with a one-liner, "I'd give $1 million to know what I look on television." And then everybody laughed and thought that was hilarious.
Yes, on that day, 53-year-old Frida Langer, an experienced hiker and survivalist familiar with the area, went missing on the Somerset area of the Long Trail bordering East Glastonbury.
That's the weird thing. Like, she's experienced. Like, she knows the area.
Right.
Why is she disappeared?
So she had been hiking. After hiking for a brief half mile with her cousin, Herbert Eisner, she fell into a stream. And so she set back to their camp to change her clothes, where her husband was resting with a hurt knee.
Oh.
But she never made it.
She never made it back to see him.
To the camp. And her husband never saw her again.
This is creepy.
So, as many as 400...
How many disappearances are we up to now?
Yeah, what is this
I think
now?
there's
Like 6?
There's 8 total.
Dang.
Yeah. So...
I'm just picturing there's some weirdo that's raping these people.
Totally.
And eating them.
Yeah.
And back then, I mean, how are you going to... You could live in the middle of nowhere. No one would even know you existed.
Yeah,
and
you can't tell anybody. There's no
True.
There's no Facebook.
That's true.
That's true.
You can't complain about it on a Facebook group.
So, but no, you can't. 6 months after she went missing on May 12th, 1951.
Oh, the same day that Swedish swimmer Gunnar Larsson was born? That's all I can find.
Oh, my God. Langer's corpse was found near the Somerset Reservoir, currently an open area that had been searched extensively numerous times in the previous months.
Man.
So that it wasn't there before, but it was all of a sudden it was there.
Yeah. Her corpse showed up.
Yeah.
That's how
But
many...
even with the body, the
That's
case...
like a year... Well, 6 months later?
Yeah, the body had decayed so badly that no cause of death could be determined.
Ew.
And so there's no direct connection between these that ties all these cases together, other than the general geographic area and the time period.
Or no, like, UFO sightings? Or...
Well, I'm getting there.
Oh, okay.
The intriguing mysteries and unexplained events associated with the Bennington Triangle have caused many to speculate wildly. Maybe paranormal forces are at work, like UFOs or Bigfoot, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Other people do believe it was a serial killer, but there's not a lot of evidence to back up this theory because the victims had a wide variety of ages and genders, which is not the usual pattern of serial killers, except for the Night Stalker.
You were watching some other Night Stalker recently, right?
Yes.
We've covered him extensively.
We did. That likely rules out the theory as well.
But you're saying, those of us Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, like, they're all in the general area, so, I mean...
Right.
Could it be indiscriminate killing? Just anybody who came around the area
yeah,
who
like
died?
some weirdo that lives in those mountains.
Yeah.
Like you said, the population's not high, so I would think they'd, like, it's one of these 8 people or whatever.
You ask one of those 8 people
right.
if they know anything.
See if they, no kidding.
But, like, now, just explain to us common folk who aren't murderinos, as you call them. Most serial killers pick a type of person to murder, right? Like they only murder old ladies, or they only murder Mexicans, or they only want to. And this one is.
They're all different.
It's ruled out, kind of, because it's different.
Right.
Even though it's the same area.
I don't believe it.
Yeah, I don't believe it. I mean, out of 8 fucking people, you can't figure out which one's the fucking weirdo?
So others... Some people also thought that maybe it was a mountain cat, like a lynx or a bobcat. But they're not known to be aggressive to humans, so that's kind of iffy.
A lynx and a bobcat are not aggressive to humans?
That's what it said.
I'd be afraid of a lynx or a bobcat if I saw them.
So all in all, when trying to tie these disappearances together in hopes of discovering a solution, there's little to go on. There was close proximity of the disappearances. The time of day when most were last seen was also similar, between 3 and 4 p.m., and the time of year when most were last seen, which was the final 3 months of the year.
Okay.
So some of the paranormal theories include there's been numerous sightings of a Bigfoot-like creature in the Glastonbury Mountains, known as the Bennington Monster. The first sighting occurred in the early 1800s when a stagecoach full of passengers was forced to stop on a washed-out road. The stage driver first noticed very large footprints in the mud that were too large to be a human's. Then the coach was attacked by a large creature who knocked the vehicle on its side. The frightened passengers could see a pair of eyes before the monster roared and ran off into the forest. Later sightings describe the creature as large, hairy, black thing standing over 6 feet tall.
A moose?
A moose, maybe.
Oh, it could be.
Mooses are big.
In 1967, a somewhat less pleasant monster began to appear. The Wild Man of Glastonbury lived in a cave near Somerset. Unfortunately for everyone, he didn't stay there. Reports say that he would descend into nearby Glastonbury and other settlements in the Bennington Triangle to harass women. He accomplished this by pulling open his ratty coat to reveal his nude body while waving around a pistol to scare off anyone who might want to stop him. Luckily, that seems to be all he did, fleeing off back to his cave. But that was in 1967, so...
Yeah, it could be a hippie.
So there were...
Well, not a hippie.
There were strange
Maybe.
happenings, that were less fantastic than a massive ape-man or gun-wielding nudist as well.
Gun-wielding nudist.
The conversion to a tourist town was hard on the loggers and miners of Glastonbury way back in the day.
Okay.
In 1892, a sawmill worker, Henry McDowell,
1892.
drunkenly bludgeoned a coworker to death with a rock after he heard voices telling him to attack. He was committed to an asylum but managed to escape and vanish. Only 5 years after that murder, another strange one followed nearby. John Harbour was a prominent Woodford citizen who went into Bickford Hollow just south of Glastonbury to hunt. He was shot by persons unknown, but was found with his fully loaded gun just next to him and seemed to have been dragged several yards. That murder has gone unsolved.
That was the early 1900s.
Yeah, right.
Now, mental health was not great in the 1890s, I don't think.
That's true.
And it's not great now. I don't know what I'm getting.
But anyway, the supernatural, none of the supernatural ones really make any sense. They kind of...
Yeah.
It's kind of reaching a little bit. So here's the practical answers.
All right, practicality.
Here we go.
I'm all for it.
Hypothermia. Temperatures can drop very low, and disappearances did all happen in the winter.
That's how the dude disappeared from a bus.
I
He
know.
just got real cold.
He got real cold and then busted every heat.
That's true. But when experiencing hypothermia, people might engage in terminal burrowing. This is a survival behavior that drives people to find someplace small and remote to huddle. It gets people out of the wind and may provide enough warmth to help slow the process of freezing to death, but it usually kicks in too late, and it just makes it hard for the person to be found.
Oh.
Another explanation has to do with the area's history as a mining town. The mountainside is littered with unmarked mine shafts that may cause hikers who go off trail to plummet to their deaths.
Ooh.
Both wouldn't that be awful?
Ugh.
Both of these can explain why the missing people were never found. One more complicating factor is the odd wind pattern on the mountain, which I was talking about.
Yeah,
Can make people disoriented.
All four winds in the same direction.
So some of these, they're still kind of loose ends. If people died from hypothermia or a fall, why was Langer moved back into the open months later? And why did Jesper's Trail
Wind blew
end
him.
at the highway?
Yeah.
The wind blew him.
The four winds blew him.
Maybe the most practical answer is that not all 5 of the Bennington cluster died in the same way. Some may have met with a killer, while others burrowed or fell. But if so, why did the disappearances span only 5 years and stop so abruptly? That's weird.
The guy who was killing him died.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's an indiscriminate killer of anybody who
Yeah.
Think?
popped into the location.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it could be.
And that guy just fucking died.
Yeah. And there was a couple more recent
And he was
things.
really tall and hairy.
Yeah.
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 There's a
Because
couple.
he didn't have a razor.
There's a couple modern ones, but
Yeah.
I'll skip them.
But they're not great.
It's just people that had got disoriented in the woods and almost didn't make it out. And
Do you guys just in general, do you guys believe in Bigfoot? I don't know why these two come to mind. The Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster.
no,
Neither
No.
one of them. You guys don't think either
No.
one is
we would
real?
have found some poop
No.
or a dead
I mean,
body.
I think Loch Ness Monster has been... Yeah, Loch Ness Monster has been disproven 6 times or something.
Well,
I made that...
I thought something recently came out that it was this. There's this.
The famous photograph, it was...
Yeah.
It was like a
eel.
toy or
faked.
something.
It's like
Yeah.
an eel. I thought they said there's an eel that can get that big or whatever it is. Or that's what it
There's
is.
certainly things in the ocean and waterways that we don't understand or know about. I mean,
That's
how
what I
deep
think.
is the ocean?
Yeah, the ocean, they said, is
Yeah, they've never been into the
there's
ocean
still
floor, right?
Yeah, a large
Everywhere.
percentage of the ocean that hasn't been explored.
Can you imagine? What if there's something like the size of a country That's an animal.
Just
like, and it was
maybe.
It just hugged the ocean floor.
and
Wouldn't
just
that
in
be
the last
crazy?
couple months, there was a UFO that was spotted in like Hawaii or something. It was like, and there's video of it online. That big blue Oahu or whatever, a big
Really?
Went down into the
big
ocean.
blue UFO that just went down into the ocean. That's like, of course it did, because we don't
I
know
wanna
what's
see that.
down there. Like, we have no idea what's down there. I don't know. That just blows my
The
mind.
aliens do now.
Yeah,
'Cause
they
went
Yeah,
down there.
if they're down there.
Well, we're trying to figure out where. Well, let's explore Mars. Like, fucking finish the ocean first.
Yeah, really.
And then go to Mars. Like, finish the goddamn ocean. Like, there's stuff we don't know. I don't get it.
All right.
All right. October 30th, I'm going to skip some things too, but October 30th, there was an uprising with the Puerto Rican Nationalist Party. I thought I'd keep it because Puerto Rico was like a territory of the U.S. then. And there was
Still is.
basically like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I guess it still is. But there was people fighting against U.S. control over it.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes into all this stuff, and I just figure I'll like just tell you that and then skip it. And then October 31st, 1950 was a Tuesday. Earl Lloyd became the first African American to play in a National Basketball Association game. One of 4 black players in the newly integrated NBA. Lloyd played for the Washington Capitals in the opener for the league's 5th season at Rochester, New York, in the only game scheduled that night. Lloyd scored 2 field goals and 2 free throws in the Caps' 78-70 loss in the Rochester Royals. I think that's the only thing I'm surprised about. Like, the first time a black guy played in the NBA, he only scored like 5 points. Like, you would think he would score 100 points, but they probably didn't let him play that much. They probably only let him play a little bit. Because I don't know if you guys know, but white men can't jump.
No, that's true. Except for Larry Bird, wasn't he the white guy?
He was a white guy, but I still don't think he could jump, really.
He had a big nose.
He was like 9 feet tall. He
Yeah.
looked like Big Bird.
Yeah, he did.
Did you have a college roommate that had
Oh
sex
my
with
God.
him?
No, she was obsessed
She
with him.
loved him? Larry Bird?
I was a
Gross.
freshman in college, and I went to Southeast Missouri State University.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anybody, and I didn't know my roommate.
So you weren't even in Boston. I mean, you
No.
were nowhere near the Celtics.
Nope, and I didn't know my roommate, and she was the weirdest.
Well,
She's
not a listener
her
anymore.
her whole room was posters of Larry Bird, and she said she told me if I ever get to see Larry Bird play, I'll die. I might as well die after that, because that is the pinnacle of my life, kind of thing.
When did he retire? 90s, right?
I
Yeah.
think the 90s.
Yeah, but I mean, this was
No,
90.
he didn't play.
I graduated high school in 91,
91.
so it's about
yeah.
91.
When we were kids, he was big. Larry Bird, I'm just realizing this right now, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think Larry Bird looks like Bob from Bob's Burgers, but with a yellow mustache
Yeah, I
and
can
like
see it.
twice as tall. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know much about basketball growing up, but Larry Bird always looked like a weirdo. Like, Larry Bird
All right, let's
is
move on.
weird. I don't know. He's a weird fucking guy. I don't know.
Some people would say you're a weird fucking
That
guy.
same guy, United States Secretary of Defense George C. Marshall, authorized $50 million for the construction of a secret manufacturing plant for the production of the nerve gas sarin.
Oh,
Manufacture would begin at the plant near Muscle Shoals, Alabama in June 1952.
so is that the first time they made sarin gas?
I think, or maybe the first time mass produced, but maybe that explains what's wrong with Alabama. No offense.
Everybody got gas.
Alabamanians.
Oh, there was something wrong with them way before sarin gas.
You think? Yeah, there was already stuff wrong with them, and we'll get into that. There's a guy from
It was
Alabama.
tapeworm. Do you remember?
Oh,
Matt, have you ever?
Oh, yeah, she's
Have you
got
ever
a
heard the
tapeworm.
theory that the South is essentially less evolved
now wait a minute. We live in the South. We're gonna
I
get
know.
killed if you put this
Well,
out too much.
in the
Yeah, you talked
early
about this already.
in the early turn of the century, or I don't even know when it was all farmers, you know,
Yeah.
and they would do go and work in the fields barefoot, and they would all get tapeworm. I mean, not tapeworm, hookworm.
Hookworm.
And they would and they didn't treat it, and it was like generations of people that would just
All getting
have
hookworm.
chronic hookworm, and it causes developmental delays and it causes laziness and it like lethargy, I guess I should say.
But just enough so that you can't tell.
And so this researcher came down south and he was like, what's wrong with these people? And he figured it out. It was a Stuff You Should Know podcast about it. And it was the most fascinating thing I ever heard. And it like answered so many questions.
So now that we live in the South, I often ask people, do you have hookworm?
What's wrong with you?
What's wrong with you?
What is wrong with you people?
You have hookworm. And still, okay, I know I think you have hookworm. Still on the same day, whatever day in October we're on. I can't, I'm sorry, Amy, but we got to go back to this because we got 2 birthdays.
No, we got a limit. I think we need to have a limit.
Amy hates birthdays. Amy hates birthdays.
I love the layered vocals on that.
John Candy was born that day on October 31st, 1950.
Oh, that's a good one.
In Newmarket, Ontario, and unfortunately he died in 1994. But John Candy is one of the greatest actors of all time.
He's a good comedian.
Jane Pauley was born on that same day in Indianapolis.
Okay.
You know, she's been on Letterman a lot.
Yeah.
Because they're both from Indianapolis. Anyway, John Candy's the greatest, and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is awesome. So that's it. We're going to end on John Candy's birthday with the Amy Hates Birthdays theme that Matt Truman came up with in like 3 seconds. And are you still going to send me the other
There will
version?
be more versions. There will be more versions.
Oh,
Perhaps
my God.
maybe
So funny.
12 versions for one for each month.
Dude, your fucking voice fucking rocks. That's why that's so great. It's like we have
Isn't it funny?
access to Matt Truman. That's hilarious.
Thank you for
doing
being
that.
on.
Thanks for being on, Matt
Oh
Truman.
my God! Thank you. I had a lot of fun once we started talking about Tom Petty and stuff.
That's what I figured.
Gotta
Like,
say.
I was thinking, like,
Until then, it sucked.
everything else sucked. But if you would come back sometimes, I was kind of thinking, like, maybe we can just bring in Matt Truman as like a recap of music each year or something.
A musical consultant.
Like a musical
Yeah,
consultant.
that'd be
Like,
awesome.
Tell us about, like, what are we missing from this year? Like, how does this translate to now or whatever it is? But anyway, thanks for having us. You are a musical genius. You rock. Your voice is fucking unbelievable. Like,
Buy his album on Bandcamp.
I do my best.
please continue to make music because I fucking love it. And I
Oh,
don't care.
certainly.
Yeah, I mean, I know you probably love doing it, I'm assuming, because you keep doing it. But
Of course,
it's like you have a gift. Please keep using it because it fucking rocks. I wish I could do that. Like, just to be able to do that. Like,
Yes.
it blows my mind. Anyway, thanks for being here, everyone. Thanks for
Yes.
listening.
Time to get out of here,
And
Chuck
everybody's
Berry.
so excited to finally meet Matt Truman. Yes, and let Dale through. And Matt, give BG our love. Or something.
I certainly will. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for
I
being
had
here.
a good time.
Yeah, buy all of Matt Truman Ego Trips albums. Now you see he's a normal guy. Like, he's a cool dude. Like, so buy
All
his
right.
music. Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, my child, it's about to get wild. Have you been down on the streets today? Say, yeah, now, baby, it's about to get crazy. Everybody's got something to say.
American Timelines is a member of the Queen City Podcast Network, powered by Ortho Carolina. Find out more at queencitypodcastnetwork.com.
Make me some cookies, bitch.